Welcome back to the Playing with Power podcast, where we talk about powerful cards in powerful formats. I am not your host, Ryan. I am your co-host, DefCat. Ryan is currently moving and will be back with us next week. We hope you had a great week and are excited for this episode. Today we tackle the question, can CEDH be solved? This is a big question and probably needs some clarification. So important, we need to move over to the Playing with Power podcast studio. But let's not delay, let's dig into this topic. Is it possible to solve competitive Commander? Can we reach a point where there's an optimal strategy that is known to everyone and agreed upon, and that deviations are considered suboptimal? If you're unfamiliar with the concept of a solved game, we are talking something like tic-tac-toe, where all the moves from the get-go are known on how to win or how to lose, and there's no deviation or better strategy. In some regard, with Stockfish and other programs for chess, it's in the same manner. It's only through human error and discretion do we get unique and complex matches, which human expression is a great jumping off point for whether or not CEDH can be. Human expression comes in, volatility, manners of play, preferences of play. But the biggest thing that sets CEDH apart from anything like this is the fact that we are a multiplayer format. Both behavior and the willingness to win between players at different times, confidence levels greatly sways whether or not anything can be solved. Human nature has so much variance, but let's say we were all, giant air quotes, perfect players, as if that existed. Then in that form, could the game be solved? We are encouraged in some way to politic and make alliances under certain circumstances. Very often, this is a 1v3 format. But with the relevance of Flash enablers, it really does feel like a true 1v1v1v1. Very rarely do I know players that attempt to win on their turn anymore. But as a result, there is a paradox that comes into play. If there are cards that are good if other people are playing certain cards, how did they get to play those cards to begin with? Were there relevant cards from the start? Were there cards that were already powerful and considered good? Originally, CEDH had formed around the power of a unique commander and or archetype. But within the last 6-7 years, we have begun to form the game around the win condition. Thus, meta was born. If there was no preference on win condition, there really can't be a meta. At most, we would hate on specific strategies that develop the boards in specific ways and or cast certain types of spells, but that gets close to what we were talking about earlier about win condition being needed for meta. And as a result, for a very long time, we saw a blue farm dominance. We had reached the point where everyone was comfortable playing their respective decks, people tried things out on the fringe, but overall, we saw blue farm consistently topping every tournament, mass amount of entries, until we saw the relevancy of decks like Kennen, Rogsai, and many others. The point is, we saw each other enough at tournaments that we begin to realize what the meta was. This was based around Thassa's Oracle, Breach, and infinite mana combos. These being the dynamics that we were going to face every time we began to build our decks around that. How we chose to defeat it was different. For a while, we chose Turbo to go under it before it set up. Then we began to think, oh, maybe we need to sit back and draw off the people that are attempting to go fast. And for a solid stint, we thought, well, what if I just shut off the whole table with stacks? This violent ebb and flow eventually culminated in something so incredible, so mind-boggling, that we gave it a name and put it on a t-shirt, Mardu Summer. I look back on this and I actually have a reality in mind that I think I see way more clearly now than I did back then. Although Mardu does definitely have the best jamming potential of any color combo. And what I mean by that is it has silencing effects and the ability to consistently attempt a win attempt every turn. It really has the cojones to sit down and go, I'm going to put a silence effect so this will actually work, rather than just jamming into the ether every turn. Mardu Summer felt more like a social experiment than it did a meta shift. I believe a large part of it was boredom of the current meta and mid-range game plans that were going on at the time. I remember hopping on a Mardu list because I had been playing Blue Farm for 2 years at that point, and I wanted to see if something different was good. And as a result, many deck archetypes that originally did well against Blue Farm suffered. The meta shifted, and we saw a lot of new decks. This really demonstrates how much player choice and influence can reshape what we call the meta. So this is where we go into part 1 of this podcast today. Are there cards that are meta dependent, and are there cards that are meta independent? Are there really cards out there that no matter what other people are playing is still the best choice? And if so, do we have enough meta independent cards to make the perfect deck? So first, a thought experiment. Are fetch lands a meta independent card? Realistically, some out there is a world in which all of us are still playing stacks and or hate bearer decks. Maybe Wizards went in and printed more than one or two extra cards to help the strategies that stop people from searching their libraries. Somehow we all got tired of tutors and realized there's a billion ways to stop it, and it's jammed every single game. There's now an expectation that tutoring is a dangerous thing to do, way more than it is now. I think in that world, there is a realistic idea that two-color only basics Kennen is really good. But we want to talk about something that also tutors that probably would still be jammed even if that happened. Demonic Tutor. I think no matter the hate we would get on library searching, Demonic Tutor would most likely still see play. In fact, I don't think I would ever see a black deck in CEDH that does not run this card. I think this is the perfect definition of a meta-independent card. Going back to our original expectation of what this means, is there ever going to be a strategy so perfect that all other strategies that try to deviate would be suboptimal? Realistically speaking, there will never be a better strategy than having Demonic Tutor. So let's get the obvious one out of the way. Is Rhystic Study a meta-independent card? Now, barring some act of God, I don't believe there will be a point within CEDH where we do not cast a lot of spells. I think there will definitely be points where we see maybe Hate Bearers or Stacks come back into the meta, and you're not going to be drawing as well as Rhystic does now, but the EV on a Rhystic Study, no matter what, is great in and of itself as a Stacks piece. Rhystic Study is an intense deterrent for decks to attempt to go off. Now that being said, there is definitely a world in which we see Mystic Remora fall out of meta. It would get down to the point where, let's say, most games are decided by only creature combos and many decks are creature-based swing and value engines. The only time Mystic Remora in that sense there would be good is if we're getting it down turn 1 for a bunch of mana rocks and then draw. That being said, I don't personally believe Mystic Remora will ever be a meta-independent card. I think it's something we'll always see, but I do believe there will be brewers out there that are honing in on a deck that may not play it anymore. It's not as no-duh as it is now. But again, that's Magical Christmas Land where that happens. But what we do see are meta-dependent cards like Draenith Magistrate. Not all white decks want to play Draenith Magistrate. It is a part of a strategy. It is not a superfluous perfect card like Chrome Mox. Many Stacks pieces are extremely meta-dependent. That's the point of them. They attack the meta at where they are the most relevant and prevalent. Many Stacks pieces that we do play are meant to stop a win attempt from somebody. And if we want it to stop a lot of people, then we want to find something that's in the meta. So for a long time, we didn't want any creature ETBs. But with the relevance of Breach and how much more powerful that is, it really doesn't see play anymore. And a lot of people talk about Stacks being played in the improper meta as kingmaking. You'll end up not stopping a majority of the table and helping a single person out. So yes, Stacks are kind of the benefacto meta-dependent cards. And then again, if there's a lot of Stacks in the meta, that really does shake up what we consider to be meta-independent. And in this way, it's paradoxical to whether or not this game can be solved. If players do bring their relevancy of personality to every game, can we really consistently know enough about the game to play enough cards? That's where we're, begging the question whether or not there are enough cards that are completely meta-independent to make the perfect deck. In a way, we have this answer in 5-color soup piles. They're the collection of the most powerful cards, staples if you will. And for a while, a lot of players, especially new ones, came into CEDH and they found Blue Farm at every table and they started to feel like things were solved. There was some kind of illusion of a solved meta. That the best thing you can do is either 5-color soup or a deck that has a unique angle that 5-color soup doesn't react to. But as a result, all the soup piles, such as Blue Farm, would find a piece of interaction and or a new Stacks piece or Hate Bearer to throw in that could take care of it because it was so relevant in the meta. And for a while, that's when every single Blue Farm list ran Draenith Magistrate because we didn't want Kark on the battlefield. We didn't want Kennen on the battlefield. I personally believe Draenith Magistrate has fallen out of favor coinciding with the banning of Jeweled Lotus. I believe it also partially fell out of meta due to the fact that card draw is the most important thing. Hate Bearers are just less and less useful to draw cards. Now, do I play Draenith Magistrate in my Blue Farm deck? Absolutely. Draenith Magistrate stops Breach, and I see Breach basically every game. So you can bet your butt I'm playing that in every white deck. But that's due to the fact that I see something in the meta. It's something that I believe is relevant. But going back to where we started with this earlier, Mardu Summer was this collective decision, like embracing something because we wanted to shape it. It feels like at any moment, we can get all of the discords together and say, hey guys, we actually all want to start playing Krark. The meta and what's played in these really good decks like Blue Farm and the soup piles would have to shift in response. If anything gets popular based on its personality type or fun factor, that's going to shape the meta. As this pendulum, continues to swing and we go to, hey, I want to win in turbo, or I want to jam every turn and have redundancy with Mardu, maybe we somehow come full circle and we want to start beating each other with big creatures again. Through this cycle, we're still going to see specific cards in decks that just don't budge. But it's a really fun thought experiment. What could we do with enough backing socially? A large YouTuber or someone else coming out and saying, I am going to start an initiative that we're all going to start playing mono blue. Every Azami player would collectively run to Thunderfart's house and drag him out and beg him to make another primer. Realistically, these things are possible. But within that possibility, I'm excited to see what never changes. What stays still? What do we see consistent? So let's move on to part 2 of this conversation. Let's dig into what we're actually seeing right now and see if this lines up at all with what we're talking about. If the same 10 decks show up in every pod, has the meta been solved? Is the top tier of Commander too consistent? Blue Tharm, Rogthras, Timnathras, Kennen, Rog Timna? How long do we need to see dominance for us to really feel like we understand what this game is about and what we need to be operating on? And what are the core engines of these decks? Is it Esper? Is it Rhystic? Is it Mystic? Is it Demonic Tutor, Chrome Mox, Lotus Petal? Heck, are wheels even relevant anymore? We need to start asking ourselves these questions and look into deck data. At the time of recording, these 10 are the top 10 commanders in terms of meta share. We have Blue Farm, Thrasios Timna, Kennen, Sisay Weatherlight Captain, Rogsai, Magda, Rogthras, Tivit, Yuriko, and Najeela. But when we look at conversion rate, the top 10 is Blue Farm, Malcolm Vile, Kenrith, Atraxa, Thrasios Timna, Sisay, Stella Lee, Glarb, Rogthras, and Kennen. That shifted a lot. And don't worry, that was a minimum of 60 entries. These aren't random cuts from people that barely ever play and are just masters at their decks. Although this pool of commanders may seem small to some, those who are in franchise can understand this is actually pretty healthy. The issue comes into the fact that there's really 2 to 3 decks on the top of that pile that are massively far ahead. And that's where I'd like to bring up the idea of solved micro metas versus an actual global meta. The East Coast and the West Coast have different metas. There are many more CEDH tournaments happening on the East Coast in close proximity to one another, and players in the East Coast see each other way more often. As a result, we almost get into player psychology versus like a meta myth. The idea that a couple really famous players that normally get top 16 ending up saying, hey, we're all going to bring Glarb could massively change a tournament. And that just further reinstates the idea that this game is a social meta. Right now, Wizards has not printed enough cards like Demonic Tutor, Chrome Mox, Lotus Petal, where every deck that is in the colors should be playing it, for there to be a solved game. This is why Commander is the Wild West of Magic. 100 card singleton is insanity in terms of statistics of how games are supposed to have an outcome. Realistically, will a computer ever be able to tell us what deck is going to win at a table? My bet is most likely not, especially on the fact that none of us really play perfect. That and a lot of our assumptions and thought about other people, depending on their behavior, changes the way we play. If I see a player that's very cold, shaking their leg, not talking much, my guard's up. I'm more aware. I'm going to play more conservative. All this to say that there really isn't a way for us to define all the factors that could change a meta. Sometime after the Mardu summer, someone brought this fact up to me. Well, this opinion. Are we avoiding stacks because it's bad or because it's annoying? I laughed at first because, that statement is insane to me. But with some elaboration and clarity, I kind of understood they meant annoying to the stacks player. Was it frustrating for a stacks player to lose because they did in fact kingmake? But did they have a good chance of winning even if they did kingmake? Was it okay to lock out 2 people and then fight for your life against the third? Was that a frustrating, sinking feeling to lock 2 players out and then do everything in your power to control the third and lose? Was it so demoralizing that no one wanted to continue dealing with the strategy and attempting to perfect it? I have no opinion or answer on that, but I thought it was a very interesting question you guys would like to hear. So in reality, if we want to ask the question, can there be a solved CDH? We're really asking, what would it take to break CDH? I don't think there could ever be one single card printed that breaks CEDH. I think it could massively change it, such as the way Flash did, where it warps it. But breaking implies that it is no longer in a state where the meta can change to heal itself. Thassa's and Breach came out and introduced the two best win cons in the format, and we were all quickly bombarded by a very steady need to change how we played due to Turbo. But we did change, we did form new metas, and a lot has happened since then. I think it would take years of Wizards of the Coast consistently printing Commander Legends sets like we got. And it would have to consistently have cards in it that are, well, yeah, I'm playing that color. Of course I should play that card. A Demonic Tutor in every color. A Jessica's Will that casts for free if you have your commander. Crazy things like that. We'd have to get to the point where there are 40, 50 relevant cards that feasibly every deck that is 3 or more colors would automatically play no matter the meta. Maybe if we had 20 different mana rocks, plus a bunch of perfect tutors, and then a bunch of perfect win cons. Realistically, that is a meta perfect deck. A deck with perfect mana, with perfect ways and redundancy to then get the perfect win cons. And then from there, the wiggle room is how you defend it. We've clearly seen decks come in and warp and kind of break the mold, but maybe not the entire scene. When Kennen was printed, we realized that there is a new mid-range strategy that we cannot attack the way we were previously attacking mid-range. Winota, Kenrith, Cody. I mean, there were some decks that hit the scene and were just kind of unstoppable for a month. Cody was the Eldrazi Winter or Necro Summer of CEDH. It terrorized Spell Table for a full month, and once we figured out how to deal with it, we went, oh, well, that's not too scary. Same with Winota. Everyone collectively went, that card. And we never let it resolve again. And or if we did, we killed it very quickly. Though realistically, I can really only see CEDH becoming solved if we get a billion Demonic Tutors, a billion Mana Crypts that are unbanned, and a billion perfect win cons. And at that point, there would still be wiggle room within how we deal with each other trying to stop us and making sure we can stop others. That plus all the personality things we brought up and player skill and how it is impossible to say you're a perfect CEDH player, I think we are basically foolproof. No, CEDH will not be solved. And that's why I love it. I think that's why all of us love this format. It's exciting. We get to express ourselves. And there really isn't ever going to be the perfect strategy. We've got optimal strategies within a meta, but at any moment, you or I could see each other at a tournament, become good friends, and then for some reason, start a cult around a card that we really care about, bring it to enough tournaments, and warp that meta. Hell, I vote we cut off our thumbs and start a Clark clan. Every deck must play Clark. We'll have thousands of us. You know what? We'll bring Clark and we won't even partner it. It'll just be Clark. That'll be the deck. Or my favorite, Clark Rack. The Crack Rock deck, which is Clark Rock Rack. Don't play that. It's bad. But heck, if we want to, we should all get together sometime, figure out a strategy that we like to play really fun, and let's do another Mardu summer. My vote is a Tasigur winter, or spring, or whatever you want to do. I love playing Tasigur, and I love potting things, and if we want to do a Sultai summer, that would be incredible. Either way, I hope you take all this information, all this knowledge, all this intrigue, all these questions, and start asking yourself, what do you want to see in the meta, and can I be it? Us here at Playing with Power hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we hope you guys go out and play some powerful Magic in some powerful formats. Please let us know if you're going to be seeing us at MagicCon Vegas. We will be seeing you there, and we hope you have safe flights. Thank you for listening.